Maria, can you, based on all of your experience, tell me what makes for a good mediator?
I think the first thing for me that a good mediator should have is knowledge. Knowledge of the conflict, knowledge of the realities that he is going to go into, but most importantly, the sensitivities of the parties in conflict. This is something that I have over the years observed is not really taken very seriously. They know some very general framework, but they don't know what's going on actually in the day-to-day realities of the conflict. The other aspect that for me is very important is to have some flexibility in the agenda, because sometimes the parties in conflict sidetrack some aspects that the mediator is not having drafted in his own agenda. So bringing in, I think, the flexibility will make the parties feeling that they are honored to have a voice on issues that are not in the mainstream agenda that was brought to them. The other aspect for me is to know, because we are talking about ethno-national conflicts and deeply divided societies, but they need a mediator who would really be aware what nationalism has done to the relationships of the parties. So that's also part of what I call a knowledge characteristic or criterion for a good mediator. And at the same time, I think a mediator should know of what are the resistances in the bigger political environment outside the room, because usually they are in a very closed environment when they come. So understanding those spoilers or those resistances outside, and not only understanding them, but asking the question, what is in it for them that is not being addressed? Okay? Which brings me to why we need a feminist mediator.
Absolutely. So why is a gender perspective or a feminist perspective necessary, and why is it so important to include women's voices in those spaces?
Yes. A feminist perspective is the perspective that is not only inclusive of those voices that are not mainstreamed or normally heard in the political male-dominated environment, but also the acknowledgement that there is another type of experience which has not really been unpacked and has not been really given the space to be heard. For me, it's not just to have women there and count how many women and so on, but which women is very important. The women for me who have a gender consciousness. And what does this mean? It means if I agree on certain issue, let's say on the issue of security, like in Cyprus, what would security mean for the needs of women, and what security would mean for the needs of men or of the future state, etc. This is what I mean really unpacking and having women who are aware of a number of questions that would pose relating to the different issues that are being discussed at the table. So this means by doing that and having the women who are conscious and bring a women's agenda there, it means they broaden both the agenda but also the discussion, okay? Which the mediator, in a neutral way of the traditional mediation model, would not do, would not have done. So it's inclusivity, but at the same time, these women would bring the issue of health rights, the issue of social rights, the issue of property rights for women, especially in traditional patriarchal societies, and so, which otherwise would not have been discussed and been also integrated in the final agreement. And the next phase, which is the drafting of the constitutions and having articles where women's needs would also be guaranteed. And the other aspect for women's agenda is not just women, but is women from across the board, women from different minorities, like the Armenians, the Maronites, the Latins in Cyprus, and all other groups that became citizens of this republic, for instance, or in the north of the new migrants and so on. And finally, I think a feminist mediator would also look at the issues that we talked about, and I'm very sensitive, power. Okay? Who will hold the power? How power will be allocated? Would we have quotas in the different institutions, for instance, in the court, in the justice system? And also, how would the security issue be part of my everyday peace, which includes, human security? So in a nutshell, a feminist mediator will be very aware of the importance of integrating women, peace, and security agenda, as has been thought of by international women's organizations. It's a substantive issue that has to do with participatory democracy. I always advocate before, during the discussion, and after the signing of the agreement, because we all know implementation phase is as difficult as signing the agreement. And by having women there, and all the research we all know, is that the agreements that have been signed with the presence of women last 35% longer than any agreement in the absence of women. So women need to own this process as much as the men. And in this way, I think ownership will make the implementation easier, because I always believe women have more connection with community levels, with grassroots, and the implementation is easier at that level because they will see the connection to their life. Therefore, in an event of a referendum, they will be more ready to embrace, this agreement. The issue of reconciliation, it takes generations, and it will take, I think, a lot of collaborative, democratic rethinking of how we can undo the conflict culture upon which decades and decades in Cyprus, more than half a century, 63 years, rooted in nationalism, in militarism, in patriarchy. So a mental frame has been formed as if their normality. So if after the agreement, it's a lot of work to do to unpack this kind of mentality and shift our minds to a new relationship that would be transformative and also for the benefit of everybody that is part of the society.
Right. We're seeing more conflict, we're seeing less funding for peace initiatives around the world. What future for mediation do you see?
We know that today what governs is power and money. And who benefits from this? We have to ask in our everyday life, who benefits? all these multi-billion industries of developing more and more technologically precise weapons, okay, with 1.01 of that money would benefit our peace building efforts that appreciate life, that they want to give a different message, that they would give immunization to people and children that are dying because of the wars and so on. So we need to raise our voices and inform people what it would mean just to cut down one little aspect of all that armament industrial complex that has been spreading all around. And I've been really thinking of Gaza. I've been thinking of Iran now. I've been thinking of Somalia. I've been thinking of all the African countries that they don't have clean water. Pregnant women are dying while the industrial complex benefits from this 3 and 4 times since these wars broke out. So for me, the answer, yes, I see that pessimistic as far as financial resources, but unless we raise our voice, we won't get even the peanuts we are getting now.
Right.
So we've got to fight for that. There is no other alternative but to appreciate the gift of life.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And what an inspiration. Yeah, you are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I learn a lot from you too.
Yes.
Thank you.